Hello, my lovelies. Welcome to the final Align and Allow episode of 2021. I cannot believe how this year has flown by. If you are doing some end of year reflections right now, we're going to be doing an episode / a video on actually how to be doing that and how to set yourself up for your new year in the new year. But I really want to talk about and use this episode today, this final episode, for really diving into how you can set yourself up for a really restful time off. I know that this tends to be the time where a lot of us are taking vacation, a lot of us are slowing down. Maybe you don't celebrate any of these holidays. That's okay. But the world does seem to kind of like have a moment of we're in the valley. There's a peak, especially right now because so much is going on. And you probably feel like there's a lot to organize and a lot to do. But just kind of knowing that, okay, yeah, there is this like peak quiet time somewhere in between. Sometimes it's a little messy, especially if you're going home to be with family. There's a lot of different experiences and places and like locations that we as individual people are in at this time of year. So just know that wherever you're at, it is welcomed here. And I'm going to kind of be addressing it as an overarching view of the subject. So no matter if you celebrate this holiday or these holiday periods, or if you don't, you're still going to get value out of this because in general, this is just about how you can start to slow down and come into this place of taking time off in a way that actually benefits you. So let me just make sure that we're live in the group so that I can see any comments coming through. If you are here live, say hello, hop on in the comments, tell me what you're going to be doing this holiday season, or if it's not holiday season and you are hopping on anyways, if you're catching the replay somewhere, let me know in the comments what your next vacation is. I'm sure you clicked on this video because maybe there's something that you're planning that's coming up for you that you're wanting to make sure that all of your ducks are in a row before you go and take time off. And if that is the case, then you are in the perfect place for that as well. Alrighty. So just as a little I'm human note here, you can see that I have all the boxes that are sitting in the background there. That's just, sometimes how things are and how things go. And I was like, I could move and organize all this stuff before getting on this video. But honestly, I want you to see that this is truly part of life for everyone. It doesn't matter that I was a declutter consultant and there's some stuff going on in the background there. I just want you to really see that this is normal. Life gets messy. That's okay. It doesn't mean that, all the declutter consulting, there we go. Brain had a little brain fart, that it wasn't incredibly beneficial. But it's just about being real with yourself. And that's what this holiday season and taking time off really is all about, that it's going to be a little bit messy and that a lot of the times we don't necessarily feel like we're on top of things or we feel like we need to be doing more. And just to really be in this place of remembering to give yourself grace. Okay. So if you're new to the Align and Allow episodes, welcome. This is a weekly training series that happens live, but you can also access the replays in many different beautiful locations, like on YouTube, also on the blog as an audio replay. Wherever and however you like to listen to these, I want to make it accessible and available for you because I know that there's a lot of really valuable and implementable information and nuggets in here that I want you to have. So the Align and Allow series is your mini weekly so-called morning show coffee chats where we talk all things doing less, working in an aligned way, and really setting yourself up for achieving more from this place of receiving. I am a full believer and advocate for the fact that you really don't need to work so hard, burning yourself out in order to create massive amounts of success. And in reality, that's actually hurting you instead of serving you. So that's what we're talking about on this series. So make sure you click through some of the other episodes if that speaks to you. There are tons of different topics that we go into to really supporting you in creating this kind of work lifestyle for yourself. So back to the topic at hand, how to plan for a restful time off. What I really want to start off with here is how rest is so incredibly crucial for your success, because I think that this is a really important mind shift for you to have that's going to make resting a whole lot easier. What I tend to see is either we take time off to rest, but then we're not actually really resting in the period of rest. And we'll talk about what that looks like and why that's really not that great. We think we're resting because we took time off, but like our minds are mentally still working or thinking about what comes next or quickly checking emails or maybe mapping something out. You want to feel this sense of ease, right? And that comes for a lot of us, especially if you're considering yourself a type A or an ambitious human being, as I would as well for myself. It's the sense of control and feeling like I've done enough that comes through with planning, and especially when we're taking time off, getting things done on the time off. It really, for me, as I can clearly point out for myself, dates back to like being in school as like a child still, and like doing all the extra assignments, like the bonus work, right? Nerd right here. Not because I considered myself like the smartest in every subject, but I did all the work and I felt good about myself if I got everything checked off. And so I really just want you to consider if you feel like that's true for you, if you feel like there's some control tendencies potentially, or if there's this feeling of like it's never enough, and just kind of noticing for yourself, like what is the story that your sweet little brain is telling you when you're taking time off that's making it hard for you to actually relax into it. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments. And if you feel like, yeah, totally, like the control theme is an aspect for me, that's my biggest one personally, or the it's never enough kind of thing, or something else might be coming up, like I need to do everything for everyone, or, you know, it needs to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, that's kind of connected to not enough though. But if something else is coming up, drop it in the comments, because this is like where we can actually have a conversation about it. And it's really, really great for you to be the courageous one and for other people to see, oh yeah, that is me too. And maybe they don't feel safe enough to share what theirs are, but them seeing you gives them the, you know, affirmation and confirmation that they're not alone, right? Same way that we're talking about it right now on this video. So that's really the reason why it's so important to lean into rest in the right way, in a way that's actually benefiting you. And instead of just saying, oh, I'm taking time off, but not actually using that time to reset yourself, to rejuvenate yourself, right? And one of the other ways that I see this happen, where we're not actually using our rest period to the fullest ability, fullest potential, is where you go into like a pre-vacay hustle, right? Like, oh my God, vacation is coming up. I have 2 or 1 weeks left before I'm like off. And there's this massive list of things that I suddenly need to get done. And maybe you always have a massive list of things to get done, in which case you're also in the right place. Welcome to our space. But really just being aware if that is you again. Like, do you feel like you hustle right before vacation? And a really great way to identify this as well, this doesn't have to be true all the time, but this has been true for me, it's been true for a lot of my clients, is that you then fall into like a mini burnout or a mini like sick phase, like where you get the flu or you get stuffed up or you get like a sore throat, because your body has literally gotten to this place of like, okay, we've been pushing so hard now, and now I need to tell you to stop. And the way that our bodies communicate those things with us is to literally make us stop, as in, oh my God, I can't get out of bed, or I can't go to this party or do this thing because like I just don't feel good enough, right? And so being able to kind of maintain that pace, even though we can use the metaphor of like a marathon, like we want to sprint at the end of the marathon just to like get a little bit ahead of everyone else. But we can also say if we've been consistent with our pace and we have a sustainable pace throughout the marathon, we don't need to sprint at the end. We can really like easily and enjoyably embrace those last couple minutes of the race without needing to like push ourselves into the ground. Okay. So it's kind of like reframing that ending for ourselves. Does that make sense? So this kind of brings me to the importance of why rest is so crucial, and where I want you to just start to identify for yourself again, am I resting or am I recovering? Okay, because those are two very different things. And my first experience of this was when I first even considered connecting to my body and bringing my body back into the equation and recognizing that I had been living in burnout for literally years. But someone said to me, I was on a retreat, and this was like where I was really diving into a lot of personal work, a lot of cleansing and clearing and releasing of the shit that I was carrying. That was really honestly keeping me in the space of burnout. Like we just talked about before, if you feel like you have to do more, if you feel like, you know, it's not good enough or you need to control, those are all stories and beliefs and emotions that you're holding in yourself, making that true in your life. And then it's playing out. Okay. So I was releasing a lot of that stuff. And I had someone say to me in one of these retreats, you know, I don't think that you're here on vacation. Like, I don't think you're here resting. I think you're here recovering. And it hit me so deeply. Like, I immediately started to break down crying. One thing you should know about me is that I am incredibly emotional, and I can cry at basically anything. But I started really crying because it really touched me, where I recognized for the first time, like, there was this part of me that was being completely run into the ground. And I just was completely neglecting that part of me. And my external world was saying, push forward, move forward, keep going. And this other part was like being dragged along on the floor, right? And so it was this moment of like, yeah, we are recovering right now. And so maybe this holiday season, especially if you have some time to yourself, maybe it is about recovery for you. Maybe you are recognizing that you have been in burnout. But at the same time, maybe you're like, okay, I just want to know that these are kind of the two options. And for me to reflect as I go into this, like, am I really resting or am I recovering? And really moving yourself if possible. And it comes down to how you are showing up in the weeks leading up to your break as well, which is a little bit of a different topic. And I'll share a little bit more about how we can dive into that at the end and how you can implement that. But how can you lean more into the rest? Because the rest is what really regenerates you, right? If you fall into a mini burnout right before you take time off, yeah, it feels good to have time off, but you're really recovering. And what your body really needs after the recovery is the actual, deep regenerating rest. And generally we don't get that because that was the rest, right? We interchangeably use rest and recovery because we haven't even clarified that those are two different concepts in our brains. Does that make sense? So it's not a bad thing if you feel like you're in recovery at all. It's actually really, really incredibly powerful for you to acknowledge that and recognize that, right? But at the same time, if you are kind of just looking at the two, how can you lean more into resting? How can you, maybe you have one more week before you take time off. How can you really set yourself up so that you can rest and that you're not hustling till the end with this need to then like recover and compensate? Does that make sense? Let me know if you're following, and continue to drop any questions in the chat or on the replay, wherever you're watching it, so that I can come and answer them, because it's really important for me that you understand this, because it's going to make such a huge difference in the way that you take time off. And it's in turn going to make such a huge difference with the way that you work, because those two things are interchangeable. We need the ebb and flow of both. That's why when we don't take time off to rest, we burn ourselves out. But doing rest the right way, in a way that benefits you, is actually going to benefit your work. All right. So what are some crucial steps for you to take before you take time off to ensure things run smoothly and that you can ease the anxiety? So there's a lot of different ways that we can go into this, but I really want to just give you like the most simple implementation of pieces right now. And then, like I said, I'll give you some other tools that you can use, just because this is a really big topic, right? Like preparing for time off, the beliefs that we have around rest. Like I could spend, a week talking about that. Like we could have a week retreat just talking about how to rest, because there's so many different things that we need to go into in terms of like, why does it feel hard to rest? Why is it not feeling safe for me to slow down? Why do I feel like I need to keep doing more? Why do I get the Sunday scaries right before I go back to work? I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but that's what a term, I don't know where I first heard it, but I love it. And it's basically like that anxiety that we get right before we start going back to work. It's like that Friday and we're like, oh my God, only 2 more days left before I go back to work on Monday. And then it's Sunday and you're like, oh my God, tomorrow's the day. And like, you're hyping up this anxiety, and most likely we are feeling that anxiety. But where is that coming from? Because we don't need to be feeling that. So all of these things are just kind of, I just want to emphasize that this is a really big topic and that there's a lot to go into. So I'm just going to give you one small piece here. And it's really simple, and it's to keep things simple. Right? So what I tend to see happen a lot is, before my clients go on their time off, before they take their time off, when they're planning for their time off, they get all of these ideas of all these things that they want to do. And to be honest with you, it's just too many things. What I teach here is that we can have it all. We can have the ambition, and we can have the well-being. We can have the success, and we can have the rest. But we need to be really intentional if we're going to have both, right? And we need to have really clear boundaries in place to sustain that balance between the two, right? So when I see these lists come through right before vacation, I'm like, okay, great. Like there's a lot of things to adjust here, but what I'm going to share with you right now is the process of just streamlining down your to-do list and keeping it really, really simple with your top 2 to 3 priorities. And I literally mean 2 to 3. Like if this is your last week before vacation, if you only get these 2, maybe 3 things done, it will be enough. And I want you to just get so brutally honest about what can go, and what actually really truly needs to get done, and what can really get done when you get back. And this is really a practice. This is not about saying, okay, I've done the list and I've done the thing, like everything like is perfect now. And it's like, okay, 1, it's not about perfect. It's about progress. And 2, it's a practice. So the more we lean into this, the more you then show up with the mindset as you do this over and over again is this is enough. This is enough for me. And I am allowed to rest knowing that I did, these top 2 things and nothing more. As soon as we are doing like 10, 15, 20 things on our to-do list, thinking that we have to do those things in order to have a restful break. And then like, let's say you do those things and like, it's restful. There's like still some things coming up, but you're like, thank God I did those things because like now I can have a restful break. What that is an illusion. It's just the mindset that you have where you're connecting the amount of work that you did with the ability to rest. Okay. And we want to sever that tie, like get a big knife or a big pair of scissors and we want to cut right through that. Okay. Separate those 2 and and the way that we can do this is to start to kind of create this new narrative around saying, okay, I can do 2 to 3 things. These are the most important things. This is like crucial things that are going to allow things to keep moving for me. That's really what I want you to benchmark it at. Like if it doesn't matter if you don't post or send an email because things are still up and running, or there's, other pieces that are in play. How can you let go of the things that aren't actually going to impact the momentum? And that can be a really hard thing to identify in the first place because we feel like everything affects momentum. And I want to just tell you right now, it doesn't. No matter what your situation is, there is no situation where I can say every single item on this list impacts your momentum and the progress that you're making. There's always only 1 to 2 main things that are like, not even necessarily necessary, but they're like good things to do to kind of just keep touch points going. Again, no matter if you are, working forward in your career, climbing the corporate ladder, building your business, a stay-at-home parent, it really doesn't matter what your goal is or what the things are that you're setting up. It's just about knowing that not everything requires my immediate attention and that I'm severing the ties between having everything done being my permission to relax. Does that make sense? So that's the one little step that I want to give you there. If you want more on this, which there's, like I said, I could have a 5-day full week workshop retreat, I don't know, on just how to rest because there's so many pieces that go into it. What I do have is a training from last year. It's called Tis the Season for Time Freedom, which is basically a full hour-long masterclass training that breaks down the 5 steps that I teach my clients exclusively, how to actually prepare for your time off, how to rest during your time off, because that's, again, what we talked about at the beginning. There's all these feelings and beliefs like I need to do more, I need to feel in control. How do we release that so that I don't have to feel this anxiety when I'm taking my time off, right? And then the other thing that I teach in there is how to come back after your time off, how to make that transition back into work feel really good and easeful and enjoyable. Because again, that's where a lot of anxiety lies that we don't even recognize because we just kind of throw ourselves back into work. And if we didn't burn ourselves out before, the likelihood that we kind of feel a mini burnout on the week or the second week after coming back, that increases again because there's kind of this anxiety that we need to compensate for our time off. Does that make sense? Let me know if that resonates with you because that's a big one for me. And I see it happen all the time. When I look back, I see that was so me in the past, coming back from time off and then like going hard because I felt like I needed to prove myself like that I deserved this time off and now compensating for the fact that I took time because I wasted time. That's just a load of bullshit. Okay. But anyways, this training, back to the topic, I went off on a tangent there, is a really, really great tool. And like I said, it has the 5 steps to actually implementing all these different pieces, the before, the during, and the after your time of rest. In a really sustainable way. And there's a workbook that goes along with it. This is a live training replay. And so you get a full Q&A session at the end where tons of people ask questions. So I'm sure that there are questions that you probably had during the masterclass or would have right now. And you're like, okay, well, how do I do it if my situation looks like this? I remember someone asking about like the stress around resting when they come into vacation, like this feeling and need to do more. And they were like, well, what do I do when I'm in that moment? So we talked about what to do in that moment. So this is a really, really valuable training. It is up on the Decluttered Intentions DIY page, resources page. But I also dropped the link in the description. It's going to be in all of the descriptions and the replay email everywhere. And it is currently 50% off until the end of the year. So you have about 2.5 weeks to jump on that still. It's 11 euros. So that's a really, really sweet price for all the value that you're getting. Like I said, this is like literally your strategy for like, how do I rest? How do I take time off? How do I plan for it specifically so that I am not in a recovery mode when I want to rest, but then I'm actually in a place of, okay, I am resting and I'm reaping the benefits of it. Because when you are resting in a way that's beneficial to you, you actually allow your mind to leave the fight, flight, or freeze mode and come into the rest and digest mode, not just your mind, but also your body. It allows you to heal things internally that, we didn't have time for because we're doing all these things. And when you're in that space as well, it creates space for ideas to come through to you, for inspirations to come through. If you have, questions or things where you're like, I don't know what I should do about this thing, just take the intention of taking them into your break with you and saying, I'm not obsessing over it. I'm not like feeling like I need to work on this thing. I'm just letting it go, but I'm just asking my subconscious for guidance, because when we're calming our mind and we're not throwing shit at it the whole time, which is basically what we're doing all day, every day at work, it gives our subconscious mind space to bring things to the surface for us. And that's that direction that we get, that moment of clarity. Like when you're in the shower and you're like, I remember what I wanted to get at the grocery store, or, oh my God, that's the answer to this question, for example, right? And so I highly recommend you go check out that training. And I can't remember what I was going to say now. So let's just wrap it up there. This is already lengthy enough. I would love to hear what you're doing for your vacations, for your rest time. If you're not taking rest time, why? Again, if you don't celebrate this holiday, that's a very valid reason, but taking rest in general, do you take rest in general? Let me know in the comments, like what that's like for you and how you're feeling about the break. And I will see you then in the new year. There's some very exciting announcements coming up. We have some really fun projects that are in the works where you're going to get a lot more of, these videos, more access to videos, to information, to me teaching you on these things. So I'm so excited to share that with you. I wish you an absolutely beautiful, lovely holiday. Enjoy the masterclass. If you decide to jump on it, definitely shoot me a message, a DM, an email on what your biggest takeaway was if you do purchase it. Again, it's only 11 euros until midnight on the 31st of December. So hop on that probably before, because I would love for you to actually enjoy your vacation / also not spend New Year's Eve, stressing about buying a course. Just do it now. Make it chill. And I will see you all in the new year for 2022.